Okay, great. Well, good morning, everyone. Again, I'd like to welcome you to the October Avon Garden Club meeting, and like to present our presenter today, who's going to be speaking about Master Gardener program. Uh, she is Dr. Sherry Dorn, and she's the coordinator of the Georgia Master Gardener Extension Volunteer Program, and she refers to herself as a gardener and also a researcher. Also, we have two master gardeners, Kathy Brackett and Janine Scoles, who wait a minute, I'm sure I mispronounced your name. So if you want to unmute yourself, Jeannie, so you can correct my pronunciation of your last name. Or okay, she's still muted, so I'll get that information later. So they'll be working on a panel
Jeannie
to
Shells.
Shells. Is that correct? Well, we'll have to. Well, we'll let her share that when if she's responding to a question later in the program. So, without further ado, I would like to turn over the program to Dr. Sherry Dorn. And Dr. Dorn, you can unmute yourself.
Yes, good morning, everyone. So
Good
good to see you. Yes, thank you, Frank. I have to tell you all, your garden club owes a debt of gratitude to Frank for coordinating your speaker series. He is persistent in this crazy time of working from home and sometimes being in the office and so forth. He was persistent in following through with phone calls and emails and getting me here in the right place. So thank you, Frank, for your thoroughness. I'm really impressed by how you've set up your monthly meetings and your presentations, and just really excited to speak to such a great group of people. Can't wait to talk to you and share my message, and so I will get to that, share my screen. Hopefully you all can see that. And as we're going along, I do have some polling questions, and in case I get so excited about what I'm talking about, I get distracted, Frank's going to back me up with popping those polls up in the screen, and we'll all see those. So there'll be some time for you to interact as we go along. But when he asked me to speak to you, we got a couple of different things on our minds this morning, and we're going to come back to that whole idea of the Master Gardener Extension Volunteer Program, some of the most favorite people of mine in the whole world. But I want to preface this a little bit about why plants are so important to people. So that's kind of that lead out title there. I use the phrase consumer horticulture a lot, and I have to stop and think not everybody understands what that means. That term doesn't resonate with all of us. But whether we have a green thumb or not, and I know many of you in this room today have probably two green thumbs, we all benefit. Everyone in our community benefits from plants and horticulture. So whether we are in a public park or whether we are in our neighborhood, whether we are at the farmer's market or in a business district or in our home gardens or whatever, at a school gardens, whatever, we are seeing plants at work. We are seeing that connection between plants and people. And our research tells us that that is important. You're seeing clips here. These images are coming from a publication series that is slowly becoming available. We have two of the series available on the UGA Extension Publications website about the benefits of plants to people. Consumer horticulture, again, this phrase that not all of us connect with, describes a number of economic opportunities, a number of job opportunities, a number of industries, all related back to plants, that have significant economic impact on us, on our communities, places where we live, and as well as the national economy. So one of the most recent figures is that consumer horticulture, all of its connected aspects, contribute $196 billion to our economy and more than 2 million jobs. So it's a big deal. It's a really important, all these connections with plants. As Frank said, I have a research bent. I don't do a whole lot of research, but I also look to my peers. I work with faculty at the University of Georgia, as well as faculty all across the country. people who are documenting through their research the environmental benefits of consumer horticulture. So all of these plants, these things that we're putting in our home gardens, in our community gardens, and when I say community gardens, I mean gardens in general in the places where we live. Our whole ecosystem, our whole environment needs plants to feed critters of all kinds, leads to pollination and food development, air quality benefits from plants. We need those plants to improve the air that we breathe. So we get, regardless of who we are, where we are, how much or how little we're planting, how green our thumbs are, we're all benefiting from plants. And of course, the care that we give them. Our schools benefit, our students benefit. The research points to the academic benefits, the behavioral, the restoration. You know how wonderful you feel when you go out into the garden. Well, I say wonderful you feel, you might come back in with a few aches and pains. Or maybe in my case, sunburn. That's my nemesis there. But when students have access to plants, to even just being able to observe out through a window, trees and plants and the natural environment, their academic scores can improve, their behavior can improve, their attention can improve, just so many benefits. And then there are there's the whole aspect of fresh food grown on school grounds and used, say, in a cafeteria. And then of course the benefits to our homes, our neighborhoods, our property values, making our plants in our communities make our communities, places that we want to be. We can also have energy savings, which again leads back to those environmental benefits. But well-placed plants can lower our energy bills, our utility bills, saving us some cooling dollars in the summer and some heating dollars in the winter. We can create social connections with our neighbors because we're out tending our plants and people are chatting. I've had a vegetable garden all summer long and have met so many people as they've walked up and down the sidewalks, just talking about the sunflowers that we're growing in the garden, asking me, what do you do for your tomatoes and that kind of thing. So a real community builder and social connector that these gardens are. And further, with consumer horticulture, it creates this whole pride of place. So people are proud of where they are. They make connections within the communities. And so all of that adds up to very positive benefits for, again, everyone, regardless of just what shade of green your thumb is. And this year is a case in point where people were at home. They were feeling a little anxious with this pandemic situation going on, and many people turned to gardening, some for the very first time ever, and some were long time, have gardened many years before and returned to the garden and rediscovered all these benefits that I'm talking about. One particular industry survey said that primary reasons for gardening were to stay busy, but to feel that sense of accomplishment and reduce stress. And there's certainly that accessing fresh food element that's certainly important to some of our gardeners, but those benefits, those intangible benefits to our mental health and well-being really came through in this situation. So again, I'm just very quickly sharing with you some of these research-based benefits that we have documented for interacting with plants, for growing plants at whatever scale, for having plants as a part of your community. So, making those decisions to support, say, community tree plantings or neighborhood ornamental beds or whatever. So I've dropped I've put some links on there. The publication on the left, the Consumer Horticulture Connecting People and Plants, is available through the University of Tennessee. It's also available on the UGA Extension website because we've got a team of people writing these. The benefits for individuals and families is also available through UGA Extension as well as Louisiana State University. And as you can see, we've got a whole series of publications, those 6 there on the center of your screen. There's a whole series of publications that'll become available, and they're really great for talking to people. So you as Garden Club members may be talking to people in your community, and we want some talking points about why plants are so great and why we should plant that pot or take care of that, that rose bush or whatever. So these just, you know, give you words to express how important plants are to all of us. And I mentioned that with the this pandemic has brought a lot of people to gardening, and I wanted to make the point that it is never ever too late to pick up the gardening habit, and it's never too early by the same token. So gardeners of every stage and every life stage will find benefits in plants, regardless of, you know, where you live, where you're at. This is a rooftop garden in Atlanta. Plants and gardening benefit everyone, and I believe that those benefits are so important to each of us as people, and to collectively all of us as communities, that it's worth exploring at any stage, at any scale, whether it is a pot on your patio or your porch, or, you know, a full-blown acre garden, or whatever you have, or maybe it's just appreciating a community garden resource. And plants and gardening, of course, are for anyone at every skill level. And if you feel a little intimidated, maybe you're one of those ones that gardened a long time ago and haven't done it for a while, and you're, you know, a little concerned about that, or maybe you are just new to gardening, or maybe you've been gardening for a while and you want to take on something new. Things like bonsai and orchids scare the willies out of me. I'm not very good at those particular endeavors, but many of you in here joining online, I bet you there's somebody there that has a bonsai collection, that has an orchid collection, that you're very skilled at that. So maybe it's just a matter of learning something new. And if you're feeling a little intimidated, now see, I've already raced through several of these slides without putting those polls up. Let me go back.
Sherry, which ones? Yeah, which one would you like to do?
So let's do the one between 9 and 10. We'll just start where we're at. See, I told you I was going to get so excited about what I was saying. There you go.
Does everyone see that? Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, you can see some answers, see some people answering there.
So we have 37, 38, 40, 41. Goodness.
Yeah, got a good group. Almost everyone has voted.
We can't hear you.
Okay. Well, I think most people have polls, so I'm going to end the polling.
Yes. Yes, so according to our poll results here, most of you that have joined online this morning have been gardening for years, and I hope you've continued gardening actively this year. A few of you have experienced gardening for the first time or picked it up that you haven't been gardening in a while. Some of you wanted to, and some of you even didn't garden this year because you felt like you didn't know how. And that is just fine. All right, thank you so much for that, for having that up there, Frank. That is great. That is great. All right. So I think you've got the button to stop sharing that poll.
I thought I stopped it. Is everyone seeing it?
Yeah, I'll move that away from my screen now. All right.
Really?
Are we good?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm like you probably have about 6 layers on your screen. So move it around, figure out where things are at. It's all good. It's the new normal, as they say. All right. So for those of you who are interested in gardening, but maybe didn't feel confident to, didn't think that you knew how, maybe it's been a while since you have gardened, that's where our Master Gardener Extension Volunteer Program comes into play. We have a fantastic community volunteer program. Currently in Georgia, we have close to 2,500 active Master Gardener volunteers. These volunteers reported over 179,000 volunteer service hours last year alone. So that was 2019 numbers. And when we put a cash value to that time, it exceeds $4.3 million. And in my mind, that is just priceless. We've just talked about all these benefits that plants and contribute to our daily life, to our well-being, to our communities. So putting a value on the time of the people who volunteer in support of those is really a difficult thing to do, because it is really quite valuable beyond this figure. So our Master Gardener volunteers talked to more than 240,000 people last year. That was just in person. With our media contacts, telephone, email, newspaper articles, blog posts, and so forth, like that, we were talking to over 1 million people. Our volunteers are very dedicated, and we'll tell you more about who they are and what they do. But just to give you an idea, alone in 2019, 9,900 continuing education hours that they told me about, that they reported, and more than 2,000 advanced training hours. So very dedicated to their volunteer role, to the point that they continue to seek that knowledge, that information, that training, that preparation to support educational programs in the communities. So as I said, Master Gardeners are extension volunteers. They partner with the University of Georgia Extension Program. Master Gardeners exist throughout the country, and they're connected, typically connected with the land-grant university in each state. So Master Gardeners connect, they help connect UGA Extension with plant enthusiasts across and communities all across the state. And we are known for helping people make selection decisions and care for their ornamental plants. So those plants that they grow for ec purposes and recreation, as well as home food production. We also advise people how to use plants and gardening to improve their environment, their personal health, and their quality of life. And I'm going to unpack all of this as we go along, talk more specifically about some of our projects and the things that we do. Our history, the history of the Master Gardener Volunteer Program, is rooted in community history. The program was the idea of an extension agent in Washington State in the 1970s. And he was in a very urban area, much like Atlanta, and simply could not respond to the number of questions that he was getting on a continual basis. So he had the idea to recruit individuals from the community and train them and ask them to help share that information, that horticulture and gardening information with people. Frank, I did it again. I missed another poll, so I'm gonna stop right here and let's pop up our poll for 14 and 15.
You're putting something in the chat, trying to chat.
I muted her.
Okay, so we've got a question here. I've kind of given away the answer already, but in your opinion, what are Master Gardener volunteers? Somebody says they haven't got a clue. Well, goodness, I'm not doing a very good job explaining this. All right. Yeah, most of you are getting that.
Okay, 47 have 50 have responded, 51, 52. Oh,
Yeah,
wonderful.
I have to go back and check.
Okay, I think we'll
Okay, I will end the poll now.
Yeah.
Oh,
I did.
oh,
I'm
you
gonna
did
share
it.
the
Okay,
results.
okay, right.
Yep. So Most of you got that. The middle answer there, be volunteer educators who help Extension share research-based resources throughout Georgia. That's who we are. That's who Master Gardeners are. Some of you chose that we are expert gardeners who create and maintain gardens to beautify communities. That's one of the benefits of our projects. We often have demonstration gardens, and those gardens do beautify our communities. But our primary purpose for Master Gardeners is to help Extension share our research-based resources throughout Georgia. So very good. I'll try to do better with my next poll, my final poll there. So I explained to you the history of Master Gardeners being rooted in community need, people seeking answers to their questions, needing help with their plants and gardening. And they turn to Extension because Extension has that reputation for being, unbiased research-based information sources to give you an answer. We're not selling a product, we're not selling a service, we simply are giving you information that's connected back to all of our scientists and researchers and so forth at universities. Now we work collaboratively across the country. That's something that just keeps building, that we're able to do more when we work together collaboratively. So our communities have this resource. They have Extension. Many communities, not all of them, but many of them have access to Master Gardener volunteers. And nationwide, there are more than 86,000 Master Gardener volunteers connected with programs in 49 states that are coordinated by Extension. So that's a pretty powerful resource for people who want to grow plants. So as I said earlier, Master Gardeners in Georgia include more than 2,500 active Master Gardener volunteers. We've got 60 programs throughout the state, and we are largely concentrated in areas of large populations. So you see a lot of our programs concentrated in the northwestern part of the state. We do have 5 areas that we focus on with our projects. The bulk of what we do addresses environmental stewardship. So teaching people how to take care of their plants and gardens in ways that protect the environment and our natural resources. But we also have projects that address the value of landscaping. If you remember some of those benefits that I mentioned earlier, we teach people how to grow home food production or grow food at home, I should say. And home is wherever, and you can use your pots on your patio or a plot at a community garden, or maybe even some space in your own home, your own yard. Gardening with youth, we do a lot of education of youth, connecting them with the garden, introducing them many times for the first time to plants. And of course, we have a few projects that specifically focus on the health benefits of gardening. Maybe it's therapeutic activities that help regain motor skills or balance or health, or maybe it is for nutritional benefits, or maybe it is even just for exercise and overall health. So I mentioned earlier that we have a lot of services, a lot of things that we do to support communities. One of our special services is our troubleshooting assistance. So we have help desks and plant clinics and all kinds of diagnostic types of services where we can help people resolve insect concerns with their plants, determine whether they've got a plant disease, or maybe it's even just a cultural condition, a site limitation that's causing the plant to become stressed and to have problems. So our Master Gardeners are trained to work our help desks and our plant clinics so that they can answer a lot of those questions, give you answers back, so that you can, again, have healthy plants and a healthy garden for yourself. We also do a lot of education, a lot of teaching, and we do that through things like our Speakers Bureau. So people that enjoy speaking with audiences, such as yourself, they'll prepare a presentation and share that with different groups. A lot of our Master Gardener groups have gone to offering lunch and learn programs. So they'll get together once a month during the lunchtime hour, and our attendees will bring a brown bag or whatever they choose to have for lunch and enjoy their lunch while one of our Master Gardeners is delivering a presentation. And those topics can range anywhere from growing a tomato to those orchids and that bonsai that I struggle with, or whatever. We have a lot of garden tours that we offer because we do build demonstration gardens to illustrate the points that we're making with our information, our horticulture resources. And we also have master gardeners that offer workshops, so things that tend to be a little more hands-on for experiencing and learning in that way. So as I mentioned, our troubleshooting services, again, our offices are set up to receive samples. Many places we have microscopes of different abilities to diagnose what's going on, to get information. Sometimes folks will bring us plant samples. A lot of times right now, people are sending us photos. And sometimes we have to ask for a little more information, you know, to get some of those enough information to make a recommendation. But our people are here and trained to offer those services, and in many cases, it's free of charge. I say many cases because if a sample has to be submitted to a diagnostic lab, there may be a fee in that regard, in that situation. But our master gardeners are also out there in our communities through our media sources. And so we have master gardeners who love to write, and they'll either put articles in newspapers or on websites. The diagram on the left is just one of our lineups for our master gardeners in Chatham County. So over in Savannah, how they're lining up their material to channel out into social media accounts so that they're offering that resource to people who are communicating there. As I mentioned earlier, teaching and presenting, our demonstrations, our workshops, our lectures, whether they're at community events or at the library, or just like you're doing here, an online virtual session. These are all great ways that Master Gardeners help Extension share this research-based information, help people solve whatever question they have, whether it's about an insect that's affecting their plants, or whether it's needing to make a plant choice for their landscape, or whether learning about something new like pollinator stewardship that affects all of us. So I've mentioned our demonstration gardens. We have those all over the state. Master gardeners build these oftentimes at community spots. The photo in the lower left-hand corner is actually at a community center, a senior center in Cherokee County. The picture in the middle is here in Spalding County at a community center as well. And you might recognize some of those folks in the upper right-hand corner. Those are from, I believe they're actually in Gwinnett, just a demonstration garden being built in the Gwinnett area. But places where people from the community, anyone, can come, see what is happening, see how these plants are growing, use the signage and the brochures and things that are there in the garden to get ideas and to find answers to questions. And just reinforce the information that we're sharing with you. And I mentioned earlier, youth education, we do an awful lot with our young people because our research tells us that those early life experiences are important for shaping our attitudes as adults. You know, those attitudes toward plants and our appreciation for them. And of course, I say these young people are our future decision makers, and so we want them to grow up to be those people that value plants and value trees and all of the benefits that come along with that. So we just owe a great hooray and thank you to our master gardeners who help us all year long, every year. This year we had a virtual celebration of our master gardeners during Volunteer Appreciation Week that occurs every year in April. And I brought some snippets to you in our slides here just to show you what some of our agents think of our master gardeners and the great job that they do. When I ask our extension agents who coordinate our volunteer programs, you know, how would you describe these master gardeners? And they use these words, giving and a true heart for volunteerism. And how do you like that? They called them plant nerds. And I think we would all agree because we just share this passion for plants. We just love them. We're a little helpless when it comes to plants, right? Dedicated plant enthusiasts, creative and inspirational. So really wonderful words to describe our volunteers. And a master gardener here, in this quote, Deborah is a master gardener in Cobb County. She shares that gardeners are great friends and do so much for the community. It is all about the community. So we're there active in our communities and sharing plant information, gardening information so that other people can feel confident and equipped to grow as well. One of our agents just described this Master Gardener as a go-getter, great people skills, helping us to find resources, and just describing, you know, how many projects, the Planter Row Garden, he's served as an officer, just really special, inspired, passionate people. Vanetta, you know, is a writer. So she's written articles and she shares her knowledge through magazine articles and so forth there in the Paulding County area. Karen is a program coordinator in Hall County, and she describes Master Gardeners as you know, doing really amazing work, delivering education to the community through Extension Office, and they have several large demonstration gardens there in the Gainesville area. So it's the bond and friendship that they have that really strengthens the program, and that's a very common thread, that people just love their fellow volunteers, the connections that they make, and of course the connections with their extension agent and program staff. Mary Carroll, again from Paulding County, tells us that her Master Gardeners think all the time that we're like family. And Mary Carroll cherishes the times when she's working with her Master Gardeners and gets to know a little bit more about them, so that personal aspect. And it's one of the things that she enjoys most about her job as an extension agent. And then Keith says, some people have become pretty close friends as Master Gardeners. They mean so much to the program and they have so much talent. That as the agent, you have to explore and dig into. And Master Gardeners are extremely thoughtful, and they mean so much to me. I don't know what I would do without them. So yes, you know. And then Yanni says Master Gardeners are more like coworkers and friends. So Yanni is an extension agent right here in DeKalb, and they give feedback to help me grow and be a better agent in person. And then just a last word from Frank. Frank is in the Henry County area. Master Gardeners, being a part of the Master Gardener group becomes like a family. So there's that family imagery there again. So they are talented people and care about each other, and they bring in new volunteers, and it really does just become a family. So very kind words from our agents, just kind of touching on the relationships that we build as we work together, as we volunteer, and as we share plants and gardening again with each other as well as with our communities. So if I've piqued your interest in the Master Gardener program, so there's two, so Kathy and Jeannie are Master Gardeners, so I thank you for your service as well. And I know that a lot of our Master Gardeners are connected with gardening clubs in their communities because it's a great place to hang out with people who love plants. So if you have more information about or have more questions, I should say, about the Master Gardener program, you can, of course, you know, you can email me and ask me, or you can call your local extension office and ask them, or you can ask Jeannie and Kathy. But you can also go to our program website, and that's gamastergardener.org, and you can read all about what we've got going on. We've got a lot of project descriptions, a lot of reports about what people are doing through their projects, Master Gardener projects in their community. So it's a lot of fun stuff to read about. So we're in the process right now of figuring out where do we go. We've enjoyed 40 years of program history in Georgia, and you know, looking forward to the next 40 with great anticipation. So we are looking at you know, who are the next Master Gardeners? How will they find us? And what will captivate them to sustain this long-term volunteer connection like we have with a lot of our folks. And so I've got, Frank, I've got another poll here. This one is to pop up for between 38 and 39.
Sherry, would you like for me to do it, or?
I got it right here.
Got it, okay.
Yeah, all right. So the question here is, how do you agree with this, that you can be a Georgia Master Gardener Extension volunteer? What do you think of that statement? All right. I love watching these polls. I love watching the results come in. This is a fun feature that's been added to our Zoom
really
sessions.
Is. Yes.
When you remember to use it.
Correct.
Yeah. All right, so we've got 32 of 40 responded so far. Just a couple more seconds. Okay, so the results show us, can everybody see the results? Hope so. Okay, good. So I love this, that 12 of you feel like you strongly agree with that statement that you can be a Georgia Master Gardener Extension volunteer. A few of you are unsure, and a few of you are sitting on the fence, and a few of you don't feel like you can, but I will tell you that, that everyone really can be a Georgia Master Gardener. You don't have to know a whole lot about plants. That is not a prerequisite. The one thing that we ask is that you have a willingness, a heart for volunteering. I even had one person, I've met one person through the years that said she didn't like plants. And that's very uncommon among Master Gardener volunteers, but one lady who said she didn't like plants. But she came to the Master Gardener program because her sister and her mother were avid gardeners and she longed for a connection with them. And I thought that was pretty powerful. I think that speaks strongly to that underlying social motivation that we have for becoming a Master Gardener volunteer. So if you are interested and willing to help me with a project, with a Master Gardener project, we as a statewide program are in the midst of a strategic planning project. And we are gathering information from the public. And I have this survey, and I have to warn you, it'll take you 20 or 30 minutes or so to complete it. So you really have to be passionate about, willing to help us out. But we ask a lot of questions about training. Is our training accessible? Is it reasonable? What about our projects? There's just a lot of questions that we ask to gain input on our program structure. And even if you're not super familiar with the Master Gardener program, there's enough information in there that your responses will be helpful. So don't be intimidated by the fact that maybe you're not super familiar with our Master Gardener program. Your information as a gardener or as a community member would be very helpful. So you can hold up your smartphone. If you've got a smartphone, you can take a picture right there of that code on your screen, and it will take you to the survey or that link there on the screen, the tinyurl.com/stratplanpublic. So that's just an abbreviation for our strategic planning survey for the public, for non-master gardeners. So, like I said, if you feel inclined and willing to help us, we would appreciate your input. It's very important to us, and it's going to help shape and direct our Master Gardener program for many, many years to come. Most immediately the next 5 to 10, but for a long time to come for sure. So as I mentioned earlier, Frank is a fantastic speaker coordinator, and he did his homework ahead of time, asked if you had questions, and he shared those questions with me. So I've dropped them in here. So as an extension specialist, I will typically answer questions from Master Gardeners or from agents who are working directly with the public, but occasionally questions will come to me. And so I do answer a small amount of questions from the public, such as this one. But this is a perfect question that you could call up your local extension office. You could get help from a local volunteer, and they can answer your question. So this question was about a bay tree growing in the garden. It's about 25 years old, very large, about 30 feet tall. It has survived freezes and droughts, and until recently was lush and beautiful. In fact, this gardener notes that she's won several Best in Show ribbons at the Yellow Daisy Flower contest with specimens from the tree. Now, I will say the picture on the screen is not hers. That's actually mine. That's in a flower pot in the back on the back patio. So don't panic. Her specimens are award-winning. So she says, early this summer, I noticed some dieback, which is pretty much spread throughout the entire tree. One limb at a time will wilt and then dry out. There are no noticeable parasites or changes in the growing conditions. I've also noticed a few new sprouts at the base of the tree, as well as some new green growth on a couple of the dead limbs. Could this just be the end of the tree's natural life? Should I just leave it and see what happens? And so this is very classic, the type of question that would come to us. And Master Gardeners would address that, would give you resources and information about this. So as a person that gets these types of questions, I'm zeroing in on a couple of clues that she told me. She's saying that one limb at a time will wilt and then dry out. And then she's noticed a few sprouts at the base of the tree. And so these indicators make me think that there's something going on at the root level. So something in the soil zone. Sometimes plants will start declining and we'll see the die out in the canopy. And it's very much because, say, we've had an excessive amount of water that's coming from gutter downspouts into the root zone, or an irrigation pattern has changed, or we've had a lot of rain and the irrigation system has continued to run. You know, I don't have enough information in the request that came to me to sort that out. But if I interacted one-on-one with this person, I could get that information and we could hopefully get to a closer answer. And this is very typical when we get pictures emailed to us, things texted to us. You know, we get a small piece of the information and it requires a little bit more dialogue, you know, to find out more information about that situation. So in this situation, my instinct is that something is going on with the root. It could very well be, as she suggests, just the end of the tree's natural life. This plant's been around a while. And so in this case, I would strongly encourage that good photographs of the canopy, some of the sprouts at the base of the tree, and then zoom out, you know, step back a little bit and take pictures of the whole site, to share that with your extension office, whether it's a master gardener there at the help desk or whether you actually interact with the extension agent. And so with that additional information, we can continue on to a recommendation. Sometimes the recommendation will come back that, you know, the plant has just reached the end of its life and you enjoy it for as long as you are willing to enjoy it, or we can come back with a cultural recommendation, things that can be done to fix the site that will improve the plant health, or sometimes it's a matter of we should plant this with a different selection that's more suitable to the site condition. And every once in a while, we'll come back with say a chemical recommendation. Maybe an insecticide is needed to address an insect issue, or maybe a fungicide, you know, should be used for a fungal issue or a disease issue or something like that. So, so again, good photos, good information. Go to your local county office and start there. All right, and then this is Frank's question. So so Frank sent me this question, and you're getting more information here on the screen than I got from the question. So I'm going somewhere, and Frank, this is not to throw you under the bus. Don't feel that way at all. You had an excellent question and a great point. So he's been gardening a lot. I'm looking for the right word there. But so he's been gardening a lot during the pandemic, and he's encountered a lot of things in the garden, has a lot of questions, and he's got a weed problem. So he's been digging up a lot of tubers. So his photograph, what he's been digging up is over here on the left. And he wants to take care of it in a way that is not using chemicals. So that's his approach to his garden. That is certainly respectable, and we can work with that. And he's removed a lot of them, and he's asking, is digging them up the best way to remove them? Should he burn them in the fire pit? Should he put them in the compost bin? All of these are such good questions. And then he tells me this other piece of information, and he says that he's used a phone app. So used a smartphone with an app to help identify it. So his app told him that it was the plant on the right. So his plant suggested that it was black bindweed. When I took Frank's information and his photo, I had him send me a picture of what he was describing. So his photo is on the left. I sent that to our weed specialist just for confirmation, because I also wanted to ask him about the non-chemical route for managing this weed. And our specialist response came back to, this is not bindweed. This is actually smilax or greenbrier, and it's a tough weed to address. So our weed specialist did give us a chemical recommendation. So if you're interested in that, I can share that with you, but you indicated in your message that you're not going that route. And so when you do pull it out, you want to avoid breaking those stems. So pulling it out, if you break the stems, that's essentially like dividing it, like propagating it, making more of it. So you want to be very careful to pull that out without breaking the stems. And in terms of the other questions that you indicate there at the bottom, whether you should put it in the compost pile, you don't want to do that, because a weed with this kind of storage in the root system here, that's going to enable it to just, resprout and take up residence in your compost pile. So when we do want gardeners to compost as much as possible, but there are certain situations where you don't put things in the compost pile. One of them would be an obnoxious weed like this, and I do use that word obnoxious for a reason. I struggle with pigweed in my yard, and I do not put it into my compost pile. It goes in the trash can. So in terms of burning them in the fire pit, I don't see any reason why you could or couldn't. But the point is, you don't want to put it in the compost pile. Some of the other things regarding that compost pile: we don't put diseased plants in the compost pile, and we don't put insect-infested plants in the compost pile unless, here's the caveat, diseased and insect-infested plants can go into the compost pile if you are a composter that routinely turns and monitors your temperature, and you make sure that you're getting those high enough temperatures to break down those disease and insect organisms. So most of us, myself included, I call myself an accidental composter or lazy composter, whichever one you want to call it. And so I'm largely putting my compost, my plant material, my plant debris in one place and allowing it to break down. I am not actively turning it. So if I put disease material in there, if I put insect infested material in there, or in this case, put this greenbrier tuber in there, I would be in trouble. That would just, my pile would not heat up hot enough to take care of that naturally. So Frank, thank you for your question. Those apps sometimes are helpful, but they're not 100%, because they're like us. When we get pictures sent to us by email, text messaging, that kind of thing, we can make a best guess. We can make an educated guess, but we can't always make a 100% guess or 100% accurate diagnosis without more information. So just keep that in mind. Those apps can help sometimes, but it's also really great to be able to back that information up with an expert, such as our specialists, our extension agents, and our very, very well-trained and prepared volunteers. So you've got that resource in your community at your extension office, so make sure you use that. So with that, if any of you have gardening questions, things that you need answers to right now, contact your office. If you're not sure where that is, our county office website will hook you up right there. You just enter the county in which you live, and Atlanta has so many counties that fall within that Atlanta town or city designation that you can look it up there. And if you want additional gardening information, our publications are there free of charge to everyone. Most of them, I should say, are free of charge. Occasionally one, like our Master Gardener Handbook, for example, is not free. But you can go to this website and you can search. It has a nice search function. You could go in there and search for weeds in the garden, or vegetables, or perennials, or native plants, or whatever. And of course, it is our pleasure to help you. To borrow that phrase, it is our pleasure, certainly our pleasure, to help you find answers to your questions, to help you make decisions to grow great gardens and great plants, and to really enjoy all of those benefits that plants give back to us. So with that, Frank, I wrap up. I'm so thankful for your time this morning. Hope a few folks have had a chance to get some new information, maybe gain a tip or two. So thank you.
Sherry, thank you so much for your time today. As a new gardener, I'm telling you, I found this very informative and will be useful to me in the future. I'm just wondering if we could give Kathy Brackett and Jeannie forgive me, I think that Bruce said that phonetically your last name is Shelez. Is that correct? You can unmute yourself if you would like to speak about the master program. Where our program's running, we don't have much time, but if you'd like to share how you've enjoyed the Master Gardener program.
I'll go.
Okay, Kathy, if you want to go first.
Okay. Well, first of all, I am a recent graduate. I was a trainee until May, and of course, we had our virtual celebration. And as far as not having to have a lot of experience and being knowing everything about gardening, I'm Exhibit A. And there is training. It's very good training. It is classroom training, and frankly, I don't know what they're doing about this year. You know, so there's a significant amount of learning, and then after you have the in-classroom, you go to the you get a project assigned to a project, and you have some say-so in the ones you'd like to work on. I work at the Fernbank Science Center. Not big Fernbank, but the little Fernbank where the planetarium is, and we have a very small compact garden there. But I have to say, it's got some of the healthiest plants I've ever seen. There's a greenhouse. The garden portion, you know, is open to anyone who wants to come stroll through it. And basically, I do grunt work over there, weeding and watering and mulching and that type of thing. So I'm on a real learning curve. But through the course, I became more enthusiastic because it makes you realize how all the elements of the earth are interconnected, and you know, even the soil is alive. And you know, even when things die, there are those insects that, you know, take care of the decay, and they're beneficial in that way. So I highly recommend it, but you will have to check in to see what the, and it is done by county. That's the way the extension runs. So this is with DeKalb County. So you can check that website that Sherry gave you, and to get more information. There is an application process, and it's, you know, it's pretty significant. You tell why you want to participate in it. And a lot of times there are people who may not know that much about gardening, but they just want to do the volunteer portion of it. So I found it very valuable, and I enjoy my project and working with the team on my project. That's all I got to say.
Okay, Kathy, I appreciate you sharing. Jeannie, I'm going to try to start the unmuting so you can unmute yourself. Oh, there you go. So would you like to share what you think of the Master Gardener program?
Well, I just think it's absolutely wonderful. And if you ever have an opportunity to take it, and whether or not you do something from it, it's just so wonderful to have all this knowledge and to be in the company of all these gardeners and hear all these wonderful talks and handouts about all the things that you would be doing at home. And it certainly enriched my life. And I highly recommend it. If you have the time and the energy, go for it.
Can I say one more thing?
Sure. Yeah.
That I forgot to mention. Even if you don't do the Master Gardener program, the extension agent does have some homeowner courses. They're very reasonably priced. You know, they have maybe about one a month, sometimes more. And again, don't know whether those are by Zoom or whatever, but anyway, they're probably not more than $10 per course, not course, speak or lecture. And those can be very valuable for homeowners.
It's a
Frank,
wonderful service.
there's a question in the chat about whether whether you pay to be part of the Master Gardener program, and there is a training fee. So there is a cost for the training that varies by county. So that covers largely the cost of your book, your training handbook, which is of course a thick textbook.
Okay, great.
Speakers are excellent. Trainers.
Great, okay. Well, our time is running out for our program, and we'll need to be moving to the general meeting. So again, Dr. Dorn, Kathy, and Jeannie, thank you so much for sharing and making this very informative. So now I will turn it over to our president, and you can unmute yourself, Kathy.
Trying. Can y'all hear me? Welcome. I'm so thrilled. I heard that we had 51 respondents to one of our survey questions. Great job, group. Great job. We're going to proceed with normal, sort of modified version of our normal meeting. So I'm going to call on Carol Gray to give us our inspiration. Carol, you want to unmute yourself?
There. I selected a poem that has been one of my favorites, and I don't know if you can see, I lettered it out, and I'm going to read it to you. It is called Bean Song by Kathleen Norris. A bean does not know much, but it remembers the winter. It sweats in secret. Its skin grows tough and smooth as it pushes up against the darkness, against the weight of the universe. Somehow it displaces just a little earth and everything shifts to one side. The bean flower stands up to see if it's in the middle of a field or someone's flower pot. It is beautiful and bitter and dies after a while, but the bean keeps singing to itself, a song about the stars and the cities and the people who live in sunlight. No one hears it singing, only a few ever learn the song. At night, when I sleep alone, I sing it for you. That's it.
Thank you, Carol. That was great. That was makes us think about things. We're going to move on to the approval of our last meeting of last session, which was March, and our September general membership minutes. Those were sent to you. If you have any questions or comments, please let me know. If not, if I can get a motion to waive the reading of the minutes. Somebody needs to unmute themselves.
So moved.
Thank you. Who was that? Say your name.
Jane Howe.
Okay, thanks, Jane. Okay, so I'm gonna, everybody who's in favor, raise their hand on their little, okay, we're gonna do physical raise hands, okay. It's confusing. Perfect. All right, so those were approved. The next thing, I do have a few, the committee reports, and thank you everyone, were submitted in writing and I sent those out to you, or we did through the newsletter. I really appreciate the chairman's doing that, and it seems to be working, so we're going to continue that until we get back into the normal world. I do have a few things, a few committees that want to report verbally to us. The first one is, I don't even think our membership committee noticed this, but we did have a guest today, Martha McDermott. I don't know if she's still with us, but if she is, I wanted to say welcome. So that is, I'm stepping in for Bev because I don't think she was aware of that. And then the next one is going to be from our budget person, our finance VP. Sue, you want to give us a little rundown on our budget?
Sure. Hi, everybody. You might have seen the budget or the treasurer's report that Kathy included with her email the other day, or actually Frank attached it, I believe, to the email he sent out with the link. As you can see, there was very little activity between our September meeting and October meeting. We do have a new member, Susie Mickler, who joined us as a guest in September, is now a member officially of the Avon Garden Club. We just had some expenses due to the yearbook production. What I wanted to just remind everybody about, especially if you're in a committee that is active and has a role during this time that we're meeting virtual, is that even though we might have a budgeted amount for your committee, that budget was created before the pandemic, and we currently have $6,500 in the bank and an expense budget of almost $14,000. And as a reminder, we don't have our pancake breakfast and boutique coming up this fall, which is our major fundraiser. So I just want us to keep every reminder that we are operating with minimum funds at the moment. We hope to have a fundraiser in the spring that will bring us full on to our budget, but we don't know. And so if there's any expense that you, on behalf of your committee, are looking to spend, if you'll check it with either me or Kathy or your committee chair, so that we can make sure that we are living within our means and not spending any money that isn't absolutely essential at this time. So that's my Mama Bear Finance request.
Thank you, Sue. Sue is always, she's great. She's like, we don't have any money, don't spend any money. You can tell she's of my generation. The next thing is that the youth committee, who is working on a grant, Carolyn Chandler, along with our other garden club, Avondale Garden Club, would like to make a short presentation. Carolyn, you up for it?
I am up for it. Hopefully we are going to have a slide show to accompany my talking here. And there it is, almost. I've got to say that Sherry Dorn gave us a good lead in on this, because hopefully we are going to be including everyone in this project. So that will be wonderful. Just as a reminder, the youth committees of both clubs, Avondale Estates and Avon, are joining forces to apply for this Plant America grant of $1,000. The idea is to rejuvenate the landscaping at Avondale Elementary School. Each club will hopefully be adding some additional funds, if we can talk Sue and the other treasurer into letting us spend a little bit. As you can see from the next few pictures, it does need work. Joan Lass, the youth committee chair for Avondale Estates Club, Mary Bell Avon, our newest member, who wasn't, I guess, even officially a member yet, Susie Mickler, who has helped write grants, has been helping also put a right to work. And we've been busy getting the application ready to send in. We've also been brainstorming, and the ideas have been flying and generating quickly, and we are very excited. One rainy morning, we met at school with Dr. Andrews, the principal, and Camille Harvey, a landscape designer. This is a rough draft of a plan, and I know you can't tell much by it. These are the existing plants with a few of the first installments shown over on the left. Camille also gave us a list of appropriate plants, brought us some paperwork to show approximate costs of plants, walked us through placement of where plants might best be placed. This was our first donation and a much appreciated first step. The landscaping and amendments of the soil, the plants, and labor will be the biggest part of the project and will take the bulk of our budget. But in addition to that, there are some big landscaping, in addition to that big landscaping undertaking, there are several exciting and fun concepts that we want to share with you today. Garden art, whoa, oh, sorry about that. Garden art comes in all forms, and these are just a few totems that caught our attention and seemed appropriate for elementary school. We've shared this plan with the Avondale Art Guild, and Martha McDermott, who was a guest today, is the chair of that. She believes that there will be some local artists who will want to help paint totems. We finally selected these totems, and I hope you can see these. They're brightly colored, 10-foot tall, 6x6 posts with birdhouses on top. We've asked the artist to consider depicting a bunch of school children on these totems, a very diverse group. You may remember the song from Sunday school, Red and Yellow, Black and White. If you remember that song, that's what we're hoping the children will look like in this depiction. In addition to that, we hope that they'll combine some birds and flowers and animals along with the children. The totems will be an eye-catching focal point for the garden named the Totem Garden. The concept, of course, is to show the school family surrounded by a new attractive garden and perhaps even provide a teachable moment about totems and other things.
Call from Avondale Bay.
Somebody didn't mute.
Call from Avondale Bay.
We've asked Mark Timberlake, and he has agreed to make birdhouses for us. You may know him better as the Bluebird House Man. We may or may not seek bluebirds, but we'll definitely seek birds. We'll be contacting other woodworkers in the community to help with our next project, which is a little lending library. We feel like learning is so important that we wanted to include that. And these are just a couple of ideas. The concept behind this is to include all sorts of gardening, environmental, bird, and other types of nature books for the children to take out, take home, read, bring back, and share with others. The art teacher, Lisa Kemp, will be working with students to contribute student art to the garden. These are just a few ideas about how river rocks and other stones could be painted and used throughout the garden, especially perhaps around the totems. Other teachers will be able to use the garden as a teaching lab for science, environment, use it as an outdoor space for writing poetry or other activities. Just a little information about the school itself. Beyond our project, things are happening. As you know, it's an international baccalaureate school, and they have recently obtained a grant for an outdoor classroom behind the school. They're working with In Bloom Landscaping on that project. Teachers and administrators are also nearing completion on STEM certification. I hope you kind of got the pattern here that there are a lot of different people involved already. The hope is that the entire community will want to be a part of this. Businesses, city and county governments, clubs, and organizations will all be contacted in hopes that they too will join with the project. Are there any questions from any of you? Of course, you'll have to unmute.
I just hope that Carolyn and her gang, when's your application due, Carolyn? This is Kathy.
The deadline is October the 15th. It would not be awarded until January 31st of next year. And then it has to be completed by February 28th of the following year, 2022. So we do have a little time to work on it, but our enthusiasm is high now and we're hoping to get started on it relatively soon. Anybody else have a question?
Well, thank you.
Yeah, I've got a question for you, Kathy Dupre here.
Yes.
It looks like some of these things, you know, the artists in contact and donors, donated labor already lined up. Is a lot of this could probably be done before the grant proposal is like finished and approved, or maybe not even totally dependent on the grant?
Yes, we're hoping to, of course, the landscaping is going to be the biggest bulk of money, but we're hoping to go ahead and get the artists working. The Mark Timberlake is already, he said, I'll get the supplies and start building the birdhouses. Obviously, we're looking for donations if people want to donate a plant or a book for the children's library. All of that kind of stuff can start immediately. And we will, if anybody would like to help work on the letter to send out to clubs, organizations, whatever, we'd welcome some help on that. We also need to know who to contact in all these clubs and different groups. So that would be very helpful if you have that information.
Thank you. I think this is great. And I tell you what, Alice sent this out to us. Alice Guppy is the president of the Avon Garden Club. And I reached out to Carolyn, and she and Joan have been like a nonstop train at this point. They're just moving, moving, moving. So thank you. Thank you for the group, and thank you for those that have contributed. And we look forward to hearing from you, hopefully in November, once the application is in, because I know you're super busy now.
Yeah, we will be keeping you well informed on this and probably bugging you to death. I hope not.
Good. Thank you.
Kathy,
Carolyn.
Alice has a question.
Yeah, Alice, unmute yourself.
Carolyn.
Sue, you're not going to want to hear this question, so you might want to turn away for a second. I spoke at length with Joan and Carolyn, and because we are in planning season, they would be excited to get things rolling right now. So I've looked at the Avondale Estates Garden Club budget, what we budgeted for the youth group. So I think we can release those funds to them. But hearing Sue speak, Sue, can we release the funds to the youth group for planting now?
I don't know if this comes under the same category as our donation that we just sent them. We just sent them $1,000 just a few weeks ago. That was from our budget from last year. So
That was for the foundation.
Right.
So
if this is a separate project, we're going to have to look at that and readjust.
yeah.
Our current budget, I believe, is $1,200, and I guess my question, and I was going to call you separately, is whether or not we can start using those funds.
Well, I guess my question too would be, given that the kids aren't even in the school building yet, what is the real timeline that this would start involving the students?
That part will be later, and it's we had originally hoped before COVID that they would be painting the totems and some of the other things, but now we've moved that back a little bit, and the art teacher and I are going to meet, are going to talk this week about how they can get involved. But the project, obviously, this is a good time for planning a lot of things, and we were hoping to go ahead and get started on many of those things before the kids come back. And of course, it's going to be nice for the community to see a much improved look at the elementary school as well. And for walkers and runners and people that live on Lakeshore, it will be a real nice improvement.
I think one of the things we need to consider as a parallel track is the committee that's looking at a new fundraising venture. and not just talk about the money that we need to contribute and donate, but how are we going to bring in that money? And I think it needs to be addressed at the same time. And we have some funds we could release along the way. It doesn't have to be all at once. So I think it'll be important to know what's needed right away and what could be, delegated down the road.
We're going to, we had programmed out to look at our budget again in the next month and a half or so. So we're really not spending that much. So, we'll take a poll of the group and see, but it seems like that we can release some of these funds. And the other thing is to, I've got some other ideas that I don't want to publicly put out there at this point, but the executive board can look at that. So Carolyn, we hear you. We know that you would like the funds. We would like to give you the funds. At this point, Sue's being ultra conservative. But we'll move forward. We'll figure it out.
It's not that. We need to relook at where we have our funds allocated. Some things are not in play right now that were in place 6 months ago. So I think once we rework it and look at it, it's not being conservative. It's more, where is our money going, and making real conscious choices about that, including what stays in our community and what goes to the state and other places that we don't have as much engagement with. So I think it's more of a shuffling.
Robbing Peter to pay Paul.
Yeah, and we need some funds. We need a fundraiser. So those of you that might be called to join that committee and get that piece of it going too, that'd be great.
Okay, well, we're running out of time. Carolyn, thank you and your team for doing this. We're going to all keep our fingers crossed, because that infusion of the extra $1,000 will really help get what we need done over there. So thanks again. I'm going to turn it over back to Frank real quick. He's going to talk to us about our November meeting, and I'm sure that Kathy Dupre will have some words to say about that too. Frank?
Great, thank you, Kathy. Yes, I would like to share my screen because I just have a few things related to that meeting. Yeah, we're all going to be in for a treat in November. We're going to have a hands-on program. Just wanted to show you some of the artwork that the lead, Kathy Dupre, has been working on this, and so maybe after the meeting of the program, we'll be able to produce artwork from the garden to the kitchen like this. So Kathy Dupre, do you want to share anything?
Just a couple things. If you have been growing okra, hang on to it, let it keep growing. If you know somebody in the neighborhood who's got okra, go ahead and steal some. The blue flowers here, the blue flowers are okra. I think, did I put out a list of things that would be good to have on hand?
Is this up here, the acrylic paint and white items to decorate?
Yeah, something that's been washed and ironed. The flour sack dishcloths are really good to work on. Again, if you've got okra, if you buy a head, a bunch of celery, there's any number of things. And if you don't want to work on it during that meeting, you can always come back to it, view it again. Once you've gathered your supplies, I've got it both in a PowerPoint and I've got it a video presentation, and it's even on YouTube.
That's right. So everyone plan to join us in November. Thank you, Kathy.
Yeah.
I'm unmuted. Okay, we're back. Thanks. I'm looking forward to this. This is going to be, it would have been more fun if we'd all been together, but we'll make it fun this way. I do have a couple of announcements to make. I'm going to go over them real quick. I'm very sad to announce that Christine McMahon has resigned from the club and from her position on the board. So that leaves a vacancy for communication vice president. The executive board talked about this briefly yesterday, and we're not sure what direction we're going in. It's just, things are kind of confused now, but Christine has offered to continue doing our website for the near future. I think that's something that we need to talk about as a board and as a club. But I just want to let you know that if you're interested in joining or helping with communication and you're electronically savvy, we would love to have a conversation with you and see if this is something that you can help for the short term and maybe even long term. And also, if you've seen Christine out in the neighborhood, please tell her thank you for her years of service. She has created a beautiful website for us, and a lot of us may not go directly to the website, but every time you open one of those links on our newsletter, that takes you to the website, and it's a huge source of information for all of us. It contains our minutes, copies of our budget, membership, everything. But we're very sad to hear that, but we understand that this is a decision that she and her family have made. Sue alluded to this. I just want to make it as clear as mud that there will be no pancake breakfast in November. So maybe in the spring, if things work better, we might try to think of something creative to do. Then it's somewhat same format. And then on that note, I'm going to turn this over to Mary Lou, because we always think of the pancake breakfast as kind of being the beginning of the holiday season in Avondale. So that leads us to our holiday dinner. And Mary Lou has been thinking about this. So Mary Lou, you want to take this up, or you?
Yes, I will. Morning, everybody. I'm thinking that I know that the holiday party can't look like it has looked in the past, but I'm not ready to cancel it all out right now. And I was trying to think of some creative ways that we could still have some holidays social time together. So I will put out a poll to find out who's interested and what type of thing. My first idea was to have some kind of outside bonfire that we could limit the number of people at times and masked, and maybe have some hot adult beverages and whatnot. So shoot me your ideas, and I will send that poll out soon to see who would be interested in a socially distant holiday gathering. Thanks so much. That's all I got.
Well, I thank Mary Lou for being willing to pursue this, because I don't know about y'all, but I'm ready to see some people sometime. We're still working on fundraising ideas. I know that the committee has been talking amongst themselves and reaching out to some other organizations in the community to make sure we're all not going to be doing the exact same thing, because a lot of us are in the same boat. But so if you have anything that you think maybe even outside the big box, let Erica Brown or myself know so that we can sort of start pursuing it. But I know that they are working behind the scenes. Bruce Johnson and Connie asked me to mention this one thing. Connie went out to Arabia Mountain, which is a natural heritage area in Lithonia. I have been there, but not in years. She said it was absolutely gorgeous. It's a great place to get outside and walk around. And it's in DeKalb County, and maybe we should take a visit to it. I'll try to post some information on it about this. Now, that's it for me. Did any other members have any announcements or anything that they want to report that wasn't included? Kathy?
Yeah, just a reminder that there will not be a litter pickup this year, day after Halloween.
Sweet Sue just sent out a little chat about Arabic Mountain. She's so good. She's on top of it. Any other comments or members?
Yes, this is Candace. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Getting back to the project for the Avondale Elementary School, this is a great time to divide your plants at the house. Is there any way, Carolyn, you can create a list, and maybe some of us have plants we'd like to donate, or we can even keep at home until you're ready to plant, that we could donate so that we can decrease the amount of plants we have to purchase?
Carol.
Yes, Linda Coatsworth has already agreed to give us some Fatsia that will be used initially. And we can certainly generate a list of plants that we need, that if you happen to have them, that would be great if you could, but we can't really plant much until we get the soil amended. So that's going to depend on the budget.
Yeah. Any other comments? Suggestions?
Yes, I would like to say something. Kathy.
And who is I?
That's Catherine Chastain.
Oh, hey, Catherine, thank you.
I just wanted to say how much I enjoyed Professor Dorn's presentation. And I'm not sure we were able to say thank you to her during this time, but she put a lot of time and effort into it, and I thought she was a wonderful speaker and a great choice, and thank the program people for having her on.
Second that. This has been a full-time job for Frank and his team trying to get us organized, and so far we seem to be doing very well, so I do appreciate that, and I appreciate Dr. Dorn's presentation. Sort of wet my whistle and made me think about it. Anybody else? Well, that's great. So thank you for coming, and we will see you, if not before, in early November. So y'all have a safe and happy Halloween. Y'all take care.
Thanks, Kathy.